Hello there, BookTube. My name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet. I know Kung Fu, but I've got no rhythm. I've got 2 weeks worth of reading because I didn't do a Friday Reads last week, back from the UK, and I thought we'd do a catch-up. So I did go out and buy a couple of books. I think since we last showed you the haul of stuff that I'd picked up and had sent to me in London. I did a little bit more book shopping, but not much. I didn't really go out at all, but I did pick up from the supermarket the second book in the series, Richard Osman's, and this was because in the supermarket they were selling it for £10, so I enjoyed the first one. I thought I would get to that, and this was, I think, the second best-selling book of 2021 in the UK, and the first one was the first one. I also there was a great article that I read in the Jewish Chronicle, of all places. I read it online, and it was written by a guy who had been reviewing books. He was talking about he'd reviewed 250 books the last 40 years. The Jewish Chronicle. If I find it, I'll link to the article below. I didn't know the reviewer. I hadn't followed his reviews, but he wrote a great article about all the books he'd reviewed and what his favourite ones. And he mentioned an author that I'd never heard of. And he called him Alec with a C, Barron. And I tried to find out about Alec Barron, and I couldn't find it. And then I found that he was called Alexander Barron. I didn't know anything about Alexander Barron. He spoke about a book of his that had been published in 1948, just after World War II, and had sold 500,000 copies in the UK. And I had never heard of Alexander Barron. I wasn't familiar with this work. It so happened the next day I was in a second-hand bookshop in central London, and I saw it right there on the shelf. So I bought a copy of From the City, From the Plough, first published in 1948. Alexander Barron. Sold 500,000 copies, and kind of faded into obscure. Maybe not. Maybe you'll tell me that you've read all of Alexander Barron's work, and he's super popular. But this kind of sounded interesting enough. I picked that up, and I also picked up something else which struck my fancy, and it's a little book called Stories of Till Our Children by Mark Nash. I'm sure I will get to that at some point in the future and let you know how that goes. But now let's catch up on all the reading that I did in the last 2 weeks. Starting with when last we met, I was reading The Discomfort of Evening by Marika Lucas Reinveld, and they won the 2020 International Booker Prize. This is translated from the Dutch by Michelle Hutchison. So I bought this, and then some people. So I got put off it a little bit because people said, "Oh, it's disgusting and gets a bit gruesome and icky." And I guess it does a little bit, and it's a little bit transgressive. Can you be a little bit transgressive? It didn't gross me out in a way that perhaps I was worried it might be really sort of off-putting. There's a little bit of sort of body ickiness, not a little bit, quite a lot of body ickiness and nose picking and scabs and both metaphorical and physical. But it is essentially a story told through the eyes of a young child following a family tragedy in quite a repressed, sort of weird religious home. But it gets in and out without causing too much offence. I was kind of middling on it. I think people have said it's a Marmite book. Some people say it's fantastic. I neither thought it was overwhelmingly fantastic or so offensive that I had to throw it across the room. It just was. Maybe I've read other stuff that was more transgressive than this. But I didn't have a sort of very strong reaction to it. But I'm pleased I read it. I was relieved at least that I didn't have a strong negative reaction to it. I didn't. Some of the writing is absolutely fine, and better than fine. But was not a highly rated work for me. But I'm pleased I did it. That's The Discomfort of Evening by Marika Lucas Reinveld. After that, I read a graphic novel, Empire State, by Jason Shiger, written and drawn by Jason Shiger, who there's a picture of him somewhere. Oh, and this was withdrawn from the Sarasota County Library System. So I picked this up in the States. There's another Sarasota library system on the thing there. Fruitvale Public Library in Sarasota. There was a picture. Did I not see a picture of Jason Shiger somewhere? Anyway, I've been looking for work by Jason Shiger for a while because I read one of his. He has a book called. This is a graphic novel, by the way. There's the kind of very basic art that we've got. And there's some different colours, but essentially that's what we're looking at. And I read one of his graphic novels when I was sitting in a bookshop a couple of years ago in Seattle, of all places. He has a book called Book Hunter, which is a kind of noir action thriller graphic novel about somebody who chases down book thieves. So it's kind of weird and bookish, but also sort of playing into action. It was really fun. I've tried to buy a copy, and I really struggled to find one online cheaply, and I bought this instead because it was also by him. And this is a fairly simple love story. I got in and out, relatively unscathed. It's about a nerd who follows the woman he believes he's in love with to New York, and he's from the West Coast and somewhere in the Midwest. I don't remember where he's from, but he ends up in New York, where he's a fish out of water, and the woman he's followed there is got a boyfriend now, and he doesn't quite know what to do, and he's super awkward and very sort of unworldly, but very sweet, and the whole thing's very sweet. And the girl who he follows, who is his friend and was always his friend, kind of gets him and is sweet to him, and there's no sharp edges to this, and as I say, in and out in an hour or so. But Empire State by Jason Sugar. I'm going to look for other work by Jason Sugar, but I really want to get hold of Book Hunter. That was that, and then after that, more of a big hitter. I read Matrix by Lauren Groff. No Keanu in this at all. It is a story about 12th century convent, and one particular young girl, when she is sent to the convent, and she is somehow related, a bastard child of some king, so that the queen feels threatened and sends her off. And based on I think real historical characters who I knew nothing about, my knowledge of 12th century nuns not being as strong as one would hope prior to reading this. But this is the story. We have an 18-year-old willful girl sent off to a nunnery in order to keep her out of the way, because she can't be killed, but she must be removed from society, and everything that follows after that. This is just absolutely, I would say, a near perfect novel in my experience. I've read one other book by Lauren Groff. I read Fates and Furies, which is really a book of two halves, and I don't think that's spoiling it if you haven't read it. I really struggled with the first half and was almost ready to give up, and then the second half of the book turns everything on its head, and everything you thought you knew and understood about the first half is revealed to be different than how you had perceived it to that point. So it really, that's a daring gambit for a novel, to make you sit through that many pages before letting you know that you've been lied to. And I met Lauren Groff. She came to the Jerusalem International Writers Festival a few years ago, and I met her and I told her that her book had really knocked me for six and sent me, wrong-footed me in a way that probably, I think I compared it to Philip Roth's The Human Stain, which takes a turn 60, 70 pages in, and something where you read a sentence, stop, pause, go back, read it again, and what just happened, and compared it with that. And I think she was pleased, and she was absolutely charming. She told a story that night, and she was just a really entertaining company. Anyway, so I came to this with all the best intentions of enjoying it, but I think it's a superior book to Fates and Furies, and it's just a fantastic novel. It's a novel about female friendships. It's a novel about women, perhaps the best work about female friendship since Ferrante's Neapolitan Quartet. Just something very, very superior. Mother Superior, she's not called a Mother Superior, but it's just bad nun pun. Very superior about this work. It is heartfelt, it is feminist, it is sexy, it is set in the 12th century, and yet the gender politics and feminist politics are about as 21st century as it's possible to imagine. Just a really spectacular work that follows, as I say, this girl is sent to the convent, age 18, and follows her through over the next 60 years, what she does, how she defends, protects her position, protects the women who are in her care, improves the lives of women in her care, and makes it so that they are safe from those that would undervalue them and even do them harm. Matrix. No Keanu, but Lauren Groff may have done something even better. I saw the new Matrix movie, by the way. It's absolute rubbish. This is much, much better. So don't watch that. Read this. Matrix, Lauren Groff. Outstanding read. After that, I finished that on the plane on the way to London. And then that weekend, I read Deborah Levy's The Cost of Living. This is the second in the trilogy of autobiographical works that Deborah Levy has put out. The first one, which I don't remember the name of now, because it's one of those long names, long words, long phrases. Oh God, I'm pausing this 1 second. Just completely useless old man brain. Okay, so this is the one I just read, The Cost of Living. I had previously read Things I Don't Want to Know. It's just one of those titles which just doesn't stick in the head. I love, first of all, big up the design work on these things. They're just beautifully presented. And the third volume, which is still only available in hardback, but it will come out in paperback, is red. So they're going to sit on the shelf. Blue, yellow, and red primary colours. It's just a beautiful bit of design work. The first one was a revelation to me. I absolutely love this. Started with Levy's life in South Africa, her father being arrested for and imprisoned for political crimes in South Africa, and then moving to London. Ends with her moving to London with the family after her father's released. This is focused more on Deborah Levy's divorce in her 50s, bringing up her daughters, moving to a new apartment, and restarting her life, and having to go out and make money from writing, and talks about writing. I think it's not the novel I read, Swimming Home. It's Hot Milk, I think, is the novel that she's writing, talking about writing when she's writing this. It's a different work. It's a complementary and different work to the first one. I think I probably enjoyed the first one more. I think I find the character of Deborah Levy in this autobiographical work less likable than some other authors writing autobiographical works, and I want to say that because that doesn't. So while I don't necessarily think I would be friends with the person writing their story here, the writing is flawless. So I don't know why I bring that up, and it's possible because it's a male thing, because I ended up comparing this unfairly with the Martin Amis book that I read, which was autofiction. He was writing about Martin Amis, but it was sort of Martin Amis more as a fictional construct, and he changed the name of his wife and changed the name of the children, or all sorts of things. But and yet I found him very charming and warm. I don't find Deborah Levy, the character in this book, which is much more clearly a work of non-fiction than the Amis, I don't find her necessarily likable, but the work here is outstanding, as the Amis book was. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you don't have to like the person in order to appreciate the book. But I'm also believe that there may be a male response to some of these things, and the problem may be mine, because the work is really terrific. And I think what this does make is a great companion piece to Woolf's A Room of One's Own, which I read for the first time last year. And this is really a modern telling of that. This is Deborah Levy finding that she must find a room of her own to work in, and in order to do the work, you have to be able to earn money from the work. And so that pressure as now a single mum to kids, and as a working author, we see her going to meetings about one of her books being optioned. We see her organising things in a shed that she's been lent by somebody else so that she can work, and then having to buy a heater so that she's not too cold. The actual sort of day-to-day practical logistics of pursuing this craft, or is it an art, or whatever is this writing thing that she does in order, it's just fantastic. The Cost of Living, really, really good. I'd say if one has to compare, I think I preferred the first one, maybe because it was a surprise. I didn't go into this liking this. This I went into with very high expectations, and I still think it's fantastic. I'm not sure I love Deborah Levy, but I certainly love this, and I cannot wait to read the third volume. That was The Cost of Living by Deborah Levy. That was a fantastic read. So after that, I read one of the graphic novels that I picked up. This was Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I've read a whole bunch of stuff that Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale have done, starting with the Long Halloween for DC, and then they did a whole bunch of color-coded miniseries, which I've got the trade paperbacks for. They did for Marvel, so there's Spider-Man Blue, Daredevil Yellow, and Hulk Grey, and I thought they're all terrific. I think this may be the strongest out of all the stuff that I've read of theirs. I never really liked the Long Halloween, which is their big 12-issue maxi series work, and really cemented their partnership, I believe. And I don't love that, but this I think was the strongest work. This is a very rose-tinted view of Superman's origins and his time in Smallville. 4 chapters each, told with a different POV character. So you get Superman, you get I think you get Jonathan Kent, maybe is the first one, his father, and you get Lana Lang, his childhood friend in Smallville, and I think even Lex Luthor. I think the artwork here is the best that I've seen. Tim Sale, and I get that it's very stylized and not everyone's cup of tea, but I got a real kick out of it. That's Clark and Lana Lang on the porch of the Kent homestead in Smallville. Just beautiful, a gentle story about growing up and leaving small towns and going to work in big cities, and what that does, and friendships. And yes, there's a bit of super villainry and terrorism and Lex Luthor stuff, and there's some plotting and superhero stuff, but it's all kind of gentle and absolutely marvelous. And that's Lois Lane teasing Clark Kent, but not ever being able to work out that the giant, broad-shouldered man she works with, who's never around when Superman turns up, may actually be connected to Superman more closely than she realized, even though she's the world's greatest investigative journalist. If you buy into Superman stuff, this is among the best Superman stories that I've read. And I don't, Superman, for all the reasons people have why Superman's boring, because he's just a big Boy Scout. That's why I've never been a massive fan of Superman. But this is about the best kind of storytelling you can expect on Superman. I really enjoy this. Superman for All Seasons, Jeff Loeb, writer, Tim Sale, artist. And then after that, I read a thriller. So I've got this, Blacktop Wasteland, by S.A. Cosby, which came out a couple of years ago. There's already been another book called Razorblade Tears, I think is the second book, which came out last year. So 2 novels in a couple of years. Blurbed on the back by Dennis Lehane and Walter Mosley, who I both love, and also Lee Child, who I only read one of his books, didn't love it at all, and Mark Billingham, who I've never read. S.A. Cosby is an African-American thriller writer, and this is a story about Black Americans. We start with a guy, Beauregard montage known as Bug, and just a classic noir story of a man in debt, with a past that he's trying to escape and a family that he's trying to protect, being dragged back into a criminal past by people he's come across and who are not as smart as he is, more reckless than he is, and who don't care about his family the way that he does. So he's dragged into this mess, gets involved in a heist, gets double-crossed, re-double-crossed, triple-crossed, and just crossed in everything gets crossed. A lot of crossing. But this was rattle along. The action scenes are great. I understand, this is I'd seen a lot of noise about this, and it's perfectly understandable why this is a great bit of thriller writing, and highly recommend S.A. Cosby, Blacktop Wasteland. After that, I read another graphic novel. I also brought home from the UK all the graphic novels that I bought and showed off in my my haul last June, and had left in London at my friend the pilot, and I was bringing a suitcase back from the UK and brought a whole bunch of it. So I've got stuff that I'd forgotten that I bought, so I've got loads of stuff. So I'm reading a lot of comic books, but this was one that I picked up very recently. This is The Department of Truth by James Tinian IV, I believe, and drawn by Martin Simmons. And it's so this is an ongoing series. The first 5 issues, Department of Truth, is up to, I think, about issue 15, 16 now. It gets published every month as a floppy comic, and then they collect in these. So the way, this is from Image Comics, and the way they tend to do this is when they start putting them out in these trade paperbacks of 5 or 6 issues at a time. This is 5 issues. Is that the first one they always do at a discounted price. So this one has a cover price of $9.99 US, $9.99. Whereas all the subsequent volume 2 and 3 and is like will start at $14.99. So they like to give you the first one free as a taster. And so picking this up for £6-7 seems to me like a reasonable way of trying something out. There's a lot of buzz around this series. I thought I would give it a try. It's X-Files knockoff wannabe, and I found the artwork just a little grating. Kind of reminds me of the work from 30 Days of Night, if you've read that. It's very sort of scratchy, sort of collagey, and didn't love it. Very wordy, lots of words going on there. So the artwork, and you know, it's fine if that's what you like. Sometimes I wasn't quite sure who was who. Like the faces were indistinct and blurry enough that I couldn't necessarily know. Okay, that's who that is. And you know, characters that we've been following for the last few issues. It's kind of, you know, so the one note that runs through this whole thing, or the premise, is that if enough people believe something, then it manifests as real. So that, for example, if you manage to convince enough people that the world is flat, then actually you can fall off the end of it. So that's not supernatural. It's kind of it's its own thing. That's not X-Filesy, but it's full of sort of conspiracy theories, and there's a great reveal about who one of the lead characters is at the end of the first issue, which I won't spoil for you now, but was kind of satisfying, and just right at the heart of every conspiracy theory you've ever wanted. But the idea is that some of these conspiracy theories, if enough people believe them, then actually the conspiracy becomes true. So the Department of Truth is trying to stop people believing in conspiracy theories, and they're going up against a group called Black Hat, which is kind of helping perpetuate the weird conspiracy theories, and it's all secret government agencies pitted against one another. And I'm not going to pursue this further. So the artwork kind of what tips me over the edge and saying that was enough. 5 issues was enough. But if that's your thing, if you're looking for something new and you kind of gone down an X-Files road, and the writing is it's slightly overwritten, but that's not always a terrible thing for a comic book, because there's ideas here, but the whole package didn't really work well for me. That's The Department of Truth by James Tinian, and I'm just going to pause while I get the book that I'm reading now. Yeah, so that's all the books that I read over the last 2 weeks, and going into the weekend, I have started No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood, which I understand, like Lauren Groff's Fates and Furies, is very much a book of 2 halves. I'm sort of 30 pages into the first half, which I'm finding a little grating right now, and so I've been slow, but yeah, it's very short. The whole thing's very short, like 205 pages, so I will whiz through this over the weekend and move on, pick something else. But yeah, and it may improve. I understand the second half is completely different to the first half, and this is probably a case of me knowing a bit too much about the book going into it. But at this point, it's motivating me to get through this first bit, which is very fragmented and a little irritating. But you know, let's see how it plays out. Knowing Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. That's 2 weeks worth of Friday reads. Hope you have a great weekend. Be well. Take care. Bye.